Betrayal can cause people to become what they once despised. It is easy to look at villains and claim you would never become one, but even the most noble people have circumstances under which they crack. In Naruto, one formerly upstanding person who hit his limit is Kakuzu. While Kakuzu was never the pinnacle of righteousness, he was not always a villain either. Kakuzu went from being an extremely high-ranked shinobi that hunted villains to one of the most notorious villains in the Naruto world. In this video, I analyze Kakuzu and showcase how he went from villainized to villain, and what money means to someone who has had their trust shattered, like Kakuzu. Kakuzu first fully appears in Naruto when he and his partner Hidan fight and capture Yukato-ni, the two-tails Jinchuriki. This fight immediately sets the brutal and violent tone of the immortal duo, and while this fight doesn't showcase the true extent of their power, it establishes Hidan and Kakuzu as ruthless ninja to be feared. At 91 years old, Kakuzu is one of the oldest ninjas in Naruto. He was alive when the ninja village system was in its infancy, and this ultimately led to his fall from grace. As an elite ninja of Takigakure, Kakuzu was tasked by his village with the mission of assassinating Hashirama Senju, the god shinobi. Kakuzu ultimately and understandably failed this mission, and despite the impossibility of the task, Kakuzu was stigmatized by his village for failing to complete the assassination and returning home from the fight alive. The fact that he was ostracized and imprisoned for failing one mission, despite years of impeccable service, led Kakuzu to become disillusioned with his village. Kakuzu then violently escaped from the prison he was being held in, killing countless people on the way out. Before he fled the village, he stopped by the village's council room, where he stole Takigakure's forbidden jutsu, Earth Grudge Fear, and stole the hearts of the village elders, implanting them in himself. Hence, when Takigakure villainized Kakuzu, they created an actual villain. If the reaction to Kakuzu's failed mission had been less drastic, he likely would have never betrayed the village. Kakuzu betrayed his village because they betrayed him first. The harsh reaction to Kakuzu's failed mission is reminiscent of how the Leaf reacted to Kakashi's dad's, the White Fang's failed mission, but that is a point I'll expand upon in the final part of the video. The people of Takigakure had decreed Kakuzu evil before he actually was, and instead of trying to reject that label, Kakuzu decided to become their worst nightmare, likely due to the fact that his trust in his village was shattered. Focusing now on the jutsu that Kakuzu stole on his way out of the village, Earth Grudge Fear is a jutsu that allowed Kakuzu to gain his immortal status. The jutsu itself turned Kakuzu's body into a mass of fleshy tendrils that allow him to disassemble and reassemble his body at will. Through this, Kakuzu can also reincorporate the organs of others into his body, since the tendrils allow him to connect his chakra network to them. As a result, Kakuzu has 5 hearts at any given time, which gives him his quasi-immortal status. If his main heart is pierced, one of his backup hearts sacrifices itself and becomes the main heart to bring him back to life, which makes Kakuzu extremely difficult to kill. Essentially, one has to kill Kakuzu 5 times in a row in order to truly kill him. Interestingly, each heart retains the elemental affinity of its original owner, so through these hearts and his implied natural earth affinity, Kakuzu has each elemental affinity: lightning, fire, wind, earth, and water. These hearts can also operate and fight on their own. To do so, Kakuzu loosens the stitches on his back and shoots out each heart. The heart, which takes the shape of a mask and is surrounded by a bunch of tendrils, then fights on its own. While the water mask was destroyed before the viewer could see what jutsu it used, the lightning mask used lightning release false darkness, the fire mask used fire release intelligent hard work, and the wind mask can use wind release pressure damage. The fire and wind mask can also release a combined attack since wind spurs on fire, and it is likely that the lightning and water masks could do the same, though this isn't confirmed. Kakuzu can also make his entire body as hard as a diamond through his Earth Spear technique, which renders taijutsu attacks useless. This is a technique that also allowed Kakashi to figure out that Kakuzu has a natural earth affinity since he has to do an earth seal to activate it. Kakuzu's tendrils are also extremely useful as medical support to other characters. Though he is the antithesis of nurturing, Kakuzu can easily stitch other people up, not just himself. Whenever he or an opponent rips off one of Hidan's limbs, he can easily reattach it through his jutsu. Moreover, when Deidara loses his arm during his fight with Gaara and his right arm gets blown off from Kakashi's Kamui, Kakuzu was able to stitch on a new arm and reattach his right arm. Overall, Earth Grudge Fear allows Kakuzu to easily swap between close and long-range fighting styles, which makes him extremely unique and hard to defeat, since he can adapt his range to counter who is fighting, as shown when he swaps to a long-range style to defend against Naruto's Futon Rasen Shuriken. In terms of abilities, he and Hidan really are a match made in heaven, or more realistically hell. Hidan is the only partner Kakuzu has had that can survive his violent temper, since Hidan can't actually die from blunt force trauma. Kakuzu flat out said at the collection office that even though Hidan doesn't care for money, he is the only one that can be his partner because Hidan is the only one that can survive it. In addition, Hidan's jutsu is naturally weak against Kakuzu since Hidan can't kill him with a single voodoo jab to the heart, as shown when Kakuzu went to recruit Hidan into the Akatsuki. While they aren't on the best terms all the time, they are stuck with each other, for better or worse. Kakuzu is also skilled at getting Hidan to refocus on his Akatsuki missions, which is very necessary since Hidan often gets sidetracked with his religious duties. When they are fighting the two-tailed Jinchuriki, for example, Hidan gets infuriated by Ni's taunts and wants to forsake the mission by sacrificing her to Jushin immediately instead of taking her alive. However, Kakuzu intervenes and firmly states that they will adhere to the mission, silencing Hidan's further objections. Kakuzu doesn't understand Hidan's Jushin rituals, but he has a sliver of patience for them as long as they don't take too long. On the other hand, while Hidan doesn't support Kakuzu's miserly ways and has even stated that greedy people are his least favorite type of people, he never tries to actively stop Kakuzu from collecting bounties, he just complains. In this way, they actually complement each other, although they would never admit it. While Hidan and Kakuzu's partnership seems natural because of their complementing abilities, it actually began in a surprising way. While talking with Zetsu and Hidan, Kakuzu claims that the only reason he partnered with Hidan is because Hidan said that religion is profitable. Hence, Kakuzu and Hidan became partners because Kakuzu believed he would somehow be able to make money through the Jushinists, which clearly didn't happen, but is how they became partners nonetheless. This then brings me to the next section of this video, which discusses Kakuzu's love for money. This next point has similarities to the analysis I did on Nanami Kento from Jujutsu Kaisen, so if that interests you, please check that video out. But Kakuzu's desire for money comes from the trust issues he gained after he was ostracized by his village. Through that incident, Kakuzu learned that people's emotions and goodwill are fleeting, but money is permanent. The only thing that Kakuzu trusts is money, and Kakuzu even stated that money is the only dependable thing in the world. Though Kakuzu seeks money, he doesn't try to buy material possessions with that money. He just wants money itself. Most people seek money so they can purchase items, but Kakuzu is different. Kakuzu likely values money because money's value is relatively objective in comparison to how we treat objects. Kakuzu has trust issues, so he likely would stay away from more material possessions that have different values to different people. This point relates to subjective value theory, which is an economic theory that claims that an object's value is not inherent and is instead worth more to different people based on how much they desire or need the object. Money is the only item that has the same subjective value for everyone, which is why Kakuzu is likely more obsessed with money rather than gaining physical and material items. People can swindle others when it comes to bartering for material objects, but money itself has a clear value, so there is no room for betrayal. In conclusion, Kakuzu likely desires money because he wants to be able to live without needing to depend on or trust others. By having money, Kakuzu can be completely independent. Kakuzu's trust issues run so deep that he cannot even trust the bounty collection office to give the proper bounty, so he has to count it all before he leaves. Despite the fact that Kakuzu values money over all else, he is still able to forgo some money if it means completing a mission. This was shown when Kakuzu left Asuma's body behind, even though it had a very large bounty on it, for the sake of helping the Akatsuki extract the 2 and 3 tails. In this way, Kakuzu is actually shown that he is a loyal member of the Akatsuki, which is counterintuitive given his trust issues. While he states during the recruitment that the reason he is joining the Akatsuki is because he believes it will lead to him being able to collect larger bounties, while in the Akatsuki, Kakuzu is one of the more loyal members. While Kakuzu does get sidetracked while trying to track down bounties, he drops bounties when he absolutely has to with no complaints. As the treasurer of the Akatsuki, Kakuzu also likely has to give up some of his personal bounty money to the organization to help it function, which means that Kakuzu is willing to give some of what he values most to the Akatsuki. While Kakuzu is probably the treasurer because he can't trust anyone else to handle the Akatsuki's money, the fact that he is still willing to pool money at all shows that he believes in the organization enough to at least invest in them. Moving now to Kakuzu's death, it is extremely fitting that Kakashi was the one to deliver the final blow, as Kakashi's dad, the Silver Fang, and Kakuzu suffered from a similar experience of ostracization. When Kakashi was in the academy, Kakashi's dad was given an important mission from Konohagakure, and during a critical point in the mission, Sakumo Hatake chose to save his teammates at the cost of successfully completing the mission. When he returned to Konoha, Sakumo was shunned for sacrificing the mission like Kakuzu was shamed for failing his mission. The key difference between the two, though, is that Sakumo Hatake became depressed and committed suicide in response to the unfair treatment, while Kakuzu turned to violence. Despite these differences, it was poetic that Kakashi was the one to finish off Kakuzu's last heart. Their conversation about the new generation also helped show that this newer generation has different values than the one before it, and that it is unclear that what happened to Kakuzu and Kakashi's dad would happen in contemporary times. Kakuzu was a victim of his village and his generation, which was way less forgiving towards failure. So that's it for this video. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoyed it. Sorry if my voice sounds a little crazy, I'm sick right now, but I really wanted to record this video anyway. If you enjoy my content, please consider supporting me on Ko-fi. You may have noticed my audio quality greatly increased in this video, and that is because I was able to finally buy a new mic with my Ko-fi donations. Thank you so much to everyone who helped that happen, and I will see you in my next video.